You lie in bed for 8 solid hours. The alarm goes off, and instead of feeling refreshed, you wake up with a heavy heart. Your body rested, but your life force feels completely drained. You drag yourself through the day doing exactly what you're supposed to do. You work hard and try to be a good person, yet you constantly feel invisible. People talk over you, your opinions get brushed aside, and you are running on absolute empty. Curious, it is a strange paradox. We live in the most technologically connected, physically comfortable era in human history. So why are we more isolated and exhausted than any generation before us? This persistent spiritual fatigue marks the location of a continuous, invisible psychological energy leak. That leak comes from a deeply ingrained subconscious habit. Every time you send your attention outward to judge, complain, or condemn the world around you, you are siphoning off your own vitality. It happens all day long. You wake up and immediately get angry at a political post on your phone. Someone cuts you off in traffic and you curse them out in your head. You get to work and immediately start mentally criticizing a lazy coworker. We often think we are just reacting to a frustrating world, but this constant outward mental projection is entirely self-inflicted. By playing the role of the judge, you are the one actively throwing away your personal power. In Eastern philosophy, there's a concept known as barami. It refers to a deep inner presence and emotional stability that radiates out as a protective aura. But the moment you project your mind outward to criticize someone else, that protective aura shatters. Think of your mind like a perfectly still, clear pool of water at dawn. Every time you silently complain about a minor annoyance, you are throwing a handful of dark, inky mud directly into your own water. This idea is not confined to ancient Eastern texts. Western New Thought philosophy arrived at a similar conclusion, with the principle that energy flows where attention goes. Modern psychology supports this. Your subconscious mind is incapable of distinguishing between criticism directed at another person and criticism directed at yourself. When you generate a frequency of anger toward a stranger, your own nervous system absorbs the blow. Despite their different origins, Eastern monks and Western philosophers both identified this mental projection as the primary drain on a person's inner stability and influence. This diagram shows the cross-section of a human brain, specifically highlighting the amygdala. The amygdala is a primitive cluster of neurons responsible for detecting physical threats. When you obsess over someone else's flaws, you trick your amygdala into perceiving an active threat. It immediately triggers a chemical flood, soaking your nervous system in cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. This chemical bath forces your brain's electrical activity into erratic, high-frequency beta brainwaves. Sustaining this chaotic state consumes massive amounts of physical energy. The biological antidote is simple. You insert a micropause between a trigger and your reaction. This tiny gap of silence is enough to activate the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive reasoning center. Once the prefrontal cortex takes over, those jagged electrical spikes smooth out into slow, rhythmic alpha waves. The stress response halts, and your body stops bleeding energy. A steady inner presence stems from the physical, biological act of bypassing the amygdala and preventing stress chemicals from depleting your reserves. To rewire this biological pathway and plug the leak, you need a structured intervention. This is a 7-day protocol designed to pull your energy back to the center. For the first 3 days, you must stop all complaining, criticizing, and outward judgment. You cannot type it, you cannot speak it, and you cannot harbor it silently in your mind. Your brain will fight this. When the urge to complain hits, you will use a mental emergency brake. Inhale deeply, hold the air in your lungs for 3 seconds, and internally give yourself a firm command to stop. Then bring your focus straight to your physical breath. The goal of these first 72 hours is simply to apply a tourniquet to stop the active hemorrhaging of your daily life force. By day 4, the frantic urge to judge starts to quiet down. Now you shift your internal lens. When you encounter someone difficult, you stop seeing them as a personal obstacle and start observing them with objectivity and compassion. You'll realize that the coworker constantly bragging is seeking validation, and the aggressive driver is wrestling with their own hidden anxieties. Their behavior reflects their own inner state. It is not a threat to you. By the 7th day, a shift occurs. You no longer have to actively police your thoughts. Your mind begins to rest more naturally in a state of quiet stillness. This internal regulation often manifests as a more settled, attentive presence. When your own internal noise quietens, your interactions become more grounded, making it easier for others to listen and respond with respect. True personal power is recovered when we stop reacting to every external trigger and instead focus on maintaining the quiet space between the world and our response.